Good evening. It's Wednesday, April 5th, 2023, and welcome to the Town of Carmel Town Board meeting. This is a voting meeting. We have 12 items on the agenda. Calling this meeting to order and asking our Deputy Clerk, Alice Daly, to please call a roll call attendance.
Councilman Baranowski?
Here.
Councilman Lombardi?
Here.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Here.
Supervisor Kazari?
Here. If everyone would please rise and face the flag, Councilwoman McDonough will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing for a moment of silence to remember the men and women who are fighting for our freedom every day. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Before we start with our public comments, we have a very special guest, our Assemblyman from the 94th District, Matt Slater. Matt's going to talk to us a little bit about the state budget.
Yeah, if that's okay. I mean, there really isn't a state budget right now, but I figured it's been a few months serving as your state assemblyman. I really wanted to take some time to come over and first off say hello. It's been fantastic working with the Carmel Town Board. Obviously, I know all of you quite well, and it's always been a very productive and professional relationship, and I really appreciate your advocacy and your leadership on some really important issues here on the local level. And previously as a town supervisor, obviously, I genuinely appreciate local government. This is where, the rubber meets the road, and understanding the issues that you're facing on the local level really does help make sure that we're properly advocating for the needs of our communities in Albany, but also it helps shape policy. And I know there's a couple of things that I wanted to just go over with you tonight. And again, for those who don't know, Matt Slater, proud to represent the entire town of Carmel in the 94th Assembly District. My district office is still located here in Putnam County over in Brewster, 3 Star Ridge Road. And so for those who need us, we are proud to be serving you. We've got a great staff. We have Kira Brunner, who is our district director. Frank Garcia is our veterans coordinator. We actually have someone on staff dedicated just to deal with our veterans. And then, of course, we have staff as well who deals with our seniors. Specifically, Deb Marks is on just for our seniors to help them navigate some of the issues that they're dealing with as well. And so constituent services, obviously, number one. We're here to serve the people. And again, proud to be your voice and representative in the State Assembly up in Albany. It's been a great transition. It's easy when I have someone like Kevin Byrne on speed dial, my predecessor, now your county executive. And so he's been a great mentor for me, helping me understand as a member of the State Assembly some of the nuances of the legislature. But right now we are dealing with the state budget. And so I just thought it was important to come by since I'm home this week and just to give you a quick update on where we stand, because it's a little confusing, but it is dominating the headlines, I think, right now. Currently, we do not have a full state budget. The fiscal year for New York State ends on midnight on March 31st, meaning that we're supposed to have a budget in place for April 1st. April 1st has passed. It is now April 5th. And so we are now dealing with a late budget. This past week on Monday, I was in Albany, and we did pass a budget extender for 10 days. So it expires on April 10th. And fun fact, to run New York State government for 10 days costs $592.5 million. That's how massive the operation is. And so we are making sure that obviously our employees are paid, our law enforcement officers are paid, anyone working for any of our state institutions are paid, social services, OPWDD, mental health, those types of things. And so obviously we want to make sure that people are getting the services they need. The biggest holdup right now with the state budget is cashless bail. And Supervisor Kazari, obviously in your past role as Chief of Police, can speak to this. But cashless bail is really what's stopping any progress when it comes to the state budget. The governor has proposed removing the least restrictive clause from the bill right now, or from the legislation as it's being enacted. And in theory, that would, it would give judicial discretion a little bit more latitude. When you talk to law enforcement officials, we had a roundtable in Yorktown a couple months back with Congressman Lawler and law enforcement officials and some of our assistant DAs from Putnam County. I'm not convinced that that's going to do enough. When you look at the public polling, 9 out of 10 New Yorkers have consistently said crime is the #1 issue facing New York State. Cashless bail is the catalyst to that concern, and rightfully so. We know that the recidivism rate is high. We know that index crimes continue to rise. And so it really needs to be addressed. Cashless bail itself was passed in the budget in 2019. I'm not a fan of passing policy in the budget. And as you all know, in local government, we don't pass policy in our budgets. It's a straight operating budget. Here's what it's going to cost to run your town. Here's what it's going to cost to run your municipality. And then we figure out how to cover those costs. In Albany, they play a different game. And in Albany, they do pass policy as part of the budget. And so in 2019, they passed cashless bail. Last year, the governor took a half step in trying to roll back some of those measures. And then this is a second attempt as we continue to see the impact cashless bail is having on our communities. And so right now, like I said, the governor is trying to deal with that one least restrictive clause. Neither the Senate nor the Assembly majorities are in agreement on that, and they don't want to change anything when it comes to cashless bail, and that's the problem. And so they're continuing to negotiate this one point, which is holding up the entire thing, and so it's really becoming a frustrating situation. So we'll be back on Monday, and we're hopeful to have a full spending plan in place. Total budget is expected to be about $234 billion. It's a massive operating budget for New York State. But there are issues that I just wanted to make sure to raise with you here on the local level. One of the things that Supervisor Kazari and I have met about and we've worked on is the governor's proposal when it comes to housing. There are really 3 issues when it comes to housing that she's proposed. The first being her housing compact, which would directly impact Putnam County and the town of Carmel. Actually, during her State of the State, she called out Putnam County by name when she delivered her message. Which I found quite remarkable, and not in a good way. And so the governor is trying to mandate 800,000 new units be built in the tri-state area, specifically Long Island and the Hudson Valley, again calling out Putnam County directly when she made that original proposal. Both the Assembly and the Senate have rejected that proposal that she's made. And the biggest concern that we have, and again, working with you, Supervisor Kazari, and other supervisors and mayors from across the Hudson Valley, is it takes away local control. The biggest thing that we saw that it did is it puts into place an appeals board. So as you all know, from being long-standing members of your town board, when you go through that approval process, if you decide that an applicant isn't able to advance their application, they can now go to the state level under her proposal, and the state can reverse what you deemed was best for your community. Again, as a former local supervisor, I think that's just absurd. You know what's best for your community. You follow the laws when you go through your approval process. And by the way, the governor also wanted to take away the environmental review process when it comes to some of these housing programs. So the things that we do on a normal basis, that you do on a normal basis when it comes to looking at applications, would no longer stand. And so it would short-circuit the process, and it would take away a lot of the key elements when it comes to those reviews. So again, the good news being the Senate and the Assembly have rejected that proposal, but we don't know what the final result is because we haven't seen a final budget. She did include $250 million when it comes to help offset infrastructure impacts, but as we all know, $250 million for all of Long Island and the Hudson Valley is nothing. We can spend that right here in the 94th Assembly District without even trying. So I think it was woefully underfunded in her proposal, and we'll see what the end result is. The Assembly and the Senate did take a different approach. Their approach was to incentivize more housing in communities. They wanted to provide more funding when it comes to infrastructure, more funding when it comes to some of the soft costs like planning, which I think is a much better approach. So again, we'll see what the final product is when we get the actual budget, but that's another important issue that would directly impact Carmel. Also is her transit-oriented development proposal. While Carmel doesn't have a train station in town here, you are bordering, obviously, Croton Falls. And so the transit-oriented development, TOD, would allow for a 50-unit apartment complex as of right on 1 acre of property within a half-mile of a train station. And so because of your vicinity to Croton Falls, I think it would directly impact your town, as well as, obviously, the infrastructure that you have here in Putnam County. This has also been pushed back on considerably by local officials from all across the Hudson Valley, Long Island especially, because, again, a 50-unit apartment complex, as of right, really does change and alter the makeup of a community. And so, again, taking that power and really not power, but taking that review process out of your hands, I think is a real poor policy to be put into place, and that's something that we're watching very closely. Another thing that I wanted to make sure that we've touched upon, something that I worked on with our county executive, Kevin Byrne, is the FMAP dollars. One of the other things that the governor has proposed is sweeping approximately $625 million in Medicaid funding that is provided by the federal government that goes to the counties to implement Medicaid programming. And she wants to sweep those dollars and direct them to New York City to deal with the migrant crisis that they're dealing with. The financial impact for that is significant. The New York State Association of Counties, a nonpartisan group that represents counties, every county in New York State, they estimate that the impact financially it would require to make sure that it puts counties in a position. They're either going to have to cut services, Medicaid services, to our most vulnerable neighbors, or they're going to have to raise taxes. And if you talk to the Association of Counties, they're estimating that tax impact to be a property tax hike of anywhere from 7 to 14%, depending on the county that you live in. Now, this is something that, again, County Executive Byrne and I have been watching closely. I've actually introduced legislation in partnership with Mark Molinaro, a congressman from upstate, and Congressman Lawler, our congressman here, that would prohibit the governor from sweeping those dollars because the federal government's allocating it for a certain purpose. She should not be able to sweep those dollars and redirect them to a different cause. And so, again, in a very important issue that's going to have a potential impact to property taxpayers here in Carmel and Mahopac that we need to keep a close eye on. And we won't know the final result until we see a final budget. So that's something that we're looking to keep a close eye on as well. Here locally, again, wearing my local government hat, AIM, your AIM dollars are expected to remain flat. Your CHIPS money and your extreme winter recovery money is expected to remain flat. Specifically, though, my concern is with transportation. And those CHIPS and EWR dollars don't reflect the increased cost of construction and inflation. And so when you talk to our highway superintendents, and I'm sure Mike would be here saying the same thing, he was with me in Albany, the problem is that there's a 30% increase in paving. And so if you're getting the same amount of dollars from Albany, you're going to be doing 30% less paving of our local roads. And I think that's unacceptable. And so working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, we're trying to increase those dollars so that we can get more money here locally to deal with our local infrastructure, because we all know that local roads matter. And so I wanted to make sure that that was on your radar as well. And then just a few more items. Veterans funding. I know how much this town loves our veterans and how much you respect and care for our veterans. And I felt it was completely insulting for Governor Hochul to actually propose cutting funding to our veterans programs across New York State and here into Hudson Valley. Now, we had a press conference, which was the first time that we brought to light her proposed budget cuts, and we did it right over at the Mahopac American Legion. But the good news is this, the Senate and the Assembly restored the funding there, so we don't anticipate those programs to be cut. Again, having a direct impact here in the Hudson Valley and here in Carmel. But again, we won't know the final result until we see a final budget, so something for us all to continue to advocate for and keep a close eye on. And then lastly, school funding, I know is always on everyone's mind. Obviously, the cost of public schools here in the Hudson Valley being what they are. I did want to point out that according to the latest school aid runs, both Mahopac and Carmel would see an increase of foundation aid by $4 million. And so that is a good thing that we're seeing in the budget as we continue to invest in our public schools. And I know that's always on everyone's mind. As a parent with 2 kids, one's in the 2nd grade, the other is going to be coming up quickly behind them. Obviously, we want to make sure we have the best public schools for our kids. And so that type of investment, I think, is an important one to make. And I'm glad to see that that's continued, and it will have a great impact here locally. And I just want to just make a point. Obviously, the mascot issue is something that we're all dealing with. And I do want to just let you all know, and I've spoken with the Mahopac school superintendent as well and some of the school board members, but I have introduced legislation that would require the state to pay for any mandated mascot transition. That's one thing people don't realize. There's a cost. No one's talking about the cost. And the cost is estimated to be about $500,000, to my understanding, according to some school officials. And that should not be passed on to taxpayers who are being really, it's an unfunded mandate. And so that's something that's gaining a lot of traction up in Albany because it's happening all across the state. I really think that SED is misguided with their approach on this. Again, one size doesn't fit all, and they don't understand each community the way that they think they do. And they don't understand the history of each community the way they think they do. And yet to come down with a heavy-handed mandate like this, if they want it, then they should pay for it. And that's something that we're working on as well on behalf of the taxpayers here at Mahopac. And so those are just some of the things that I just wanted to bring to you all to make sure that they're on your radar. I know that, and again, we can go for hours about all the different things in the state budget. There's so much more in there. But when it comes to local government and the impact on your community, on our community, I just wanted to make sure that these things were on your radar. And again, having your input and guidance would be great because it helps us advocate when we're up in Albany. And again, going back specifically to the housing issue, that's something that we've collaborated on directly, Supervisor, and I've been able to take those talking points and those concerns back with me, and they've made a lot of sense to people on the other side of the aisle. And that's why I think we've seen the change in the Assembly's approach when it comes to the housing compact. And I just hope that that's going to be the final product, because if not, it's going to be a significant impact to all of our communities. Any questions you might have for me while I'm here?
Yeah, you didn't mention that you voted no on the revow.
So there is a bill that, so one of the committees I sit on is real property, and so we deal with all the real property tax issues facing the state and municipalities. One of the bills that came forward was a mandated 8-year revow for every municipality in New York State. And, one of the things that I said, again, is it's an unfunded mandate. And speaking with Supervisor Kazari, I was able to bring back to my committee, and I'm on record on, and now they record and save all the committee meetings. So I'm on record as saying this is an unfunded mandate. In the town of Carmel, it was nearly $1 million. In the town of Yorktown, it's estimated to be about $2 million. And to do that every 8 years is an unfunded mandate. And so if Albany wants it, then Albany should pay for it. And so these unfunded mandates are really just crushing taxpayers every single day. I've actually signed on to a bill that would prohibit an unfunded mandate for 3 years, something that Assemblyman Durso is sponsoring. And so we really need to get our fiscal house in order. When you look at the size of the budget, when you look at our debt, I mean, the state is the second most indebted state in the entire country, only behind California. And I know for some reason, some people want to compete with California. I don't want to really be in that conversation. I don't think that we should be comparing ourselves to California because we want to be better than California. And when you look at, just and I have some, actually right here, I have this one thing that just blew my mind when we were debating this in Albany. We're expected just in 1 year to incur $8.2 billion in new debt. $8.2 billion. And so really we need to get our fiscal house in order. And everyone knows that we're facing an affordability crisis. We just got ranked today. We're the second most expensive state to start and run a business. Who's first? Again, California. I mean, so these are all things that I think we have to get our hands around. I think we have to make more prudent decisions. And when it comes to obviously managing a budget, you just can't tax and spend your way out of every problem that you have. And unfortunately, that's been the case up there. And this reval legislation is again, I understand the intent, but it's forcing an unfunded mandate on every municipality in this state. And again, if Albany wants it, Albany should pay for it.
Questions?
Matt, I just, obviously, thanks for coming tonight. We've worked together for over 10 years for the town and at least for this town. One of the issues that we have talked about lots, and not much that we can do about it here, but we on the town board did pass a resolution, which I authored back in December of 2019 with regard to the bail reform. Have the governor, by the way, it's nice that she knows where Putnam County is, or does she? I'm not even sure about that. But anyway, she used it in a very derogatory manner.
Yep.
So people should know about that.
Yep.
Because it wasn't to commend Putnam County
Not at all.
and its residents. It was to denigrate Putnam County and the way that this county and the towns here and taxpayers of the town, of this state, are treated by the state. So we authored that, and we passed that resolution, and we sent it to then Assemblyman Burns and Pete Harcum, and you should have it in your Senate, in your correspondence that we sent out. If you need a copy, we can provide it to you.
That'd be great, yeah.
But the people here, I mean, that's obviously a big issue. We need more than just the minimal change to that. And, obviously, I know the dynamics of what you're dealing with up there, especially in the majorities of both chambers. There's not going to be dramatic change. I don't anticipate it. It's not going to benefit the people of Putnam County and people of Carmel in any way, but then definitely needs to be some changes to that. So as much as you can, I know you're in the minority, as much as you can, please continue to push for it because it goes to the safety of the residents. The other matter is the CHIPS money that we've talked about in the past. You're right. I mean, the price of petroleum for the blacktop went up a third.
Yep.
Yeah, so the town highway department is doing basically a third less paving than need be. And it's, I mean, drive around, we do as much as we can and what we can afford, but each year it gets getting cut back. And even the state roads, which you're responsible for,
Yep.
Route 6, it's a mess. It's a mess. People complain about it all the time. I'm like, listen, I wish it was a town road. We'd go and do what we can do on it, but it's not our road. It's the state's road. So that really needs greater impact and emphasis with regard to our infrastructure, especially if, and by the way, I thought everybody up there was an environmentalist, yet they want to cut back on the environmental reviews for these
It's amazing,
building
right?
projects. Wow,
Right?
Didn't
It's-
realize that
and
that was,
when we're living in the watershed.
and we're in the watershed, yeah.
Right. That's one of the things that we brought up when we
Yeah,
spoke, and we've raised that with the governor and her staff.
It's been limited in lots of things that it can
Yeah.
do for the past 50 years because we're in the watershed.
Yep.
Yet now all of a sudden, we want to waive environmental regulations,
Yep.
of all things, to benefit, I'm not sure, the city of New York, I guess. But thanks for your help. Thanks for your keep fighting the good fight for us, and anything that we on the town board can do, please let us know.
I appreciate that, Frank. And you're 100% right on the bail reform. Cashless bail is just such a disaster. We're the only state that's implemented cashless bail without a dangerousness standard. And it really, you have to wonder where the common sense was on that. Right now.
Or was there any?
There really, no, obviously not. And right now, I will tell you this, though. There are members of the other side of the aisle who understand what we're trying to deal with. And so there's people like Ken Zabrowski, who just put in a bill, I think it was over the weekend, dealing with cashless bail, trying to, and I don't want to muddy it up, but trying to restore some more judicial order and include some dangerousness standards that I think are critically important for our judges when they're dealing with these criminals, especially criminals who are being arrested a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen times. I mean, at what point do you say enough's enough? Unfortunately, though, the reality is, as we all know, that the laws that are being passed protect criminals, and that's the result of which you're seeing them constantly continuing to commit the same crimes over and over because they know that they're not going to be held accountable. And that's where we really need to get to the root cause of that problem by giving our judges back the power to set bail, especially when you're seeing people arrested dozens of times and continuing to be let out on the streets. I mean, it's really just causing just a horrible and dangerous situation in many communities. And just as an aside on the DOT funding and on CHIPS funding, I sit on the Transportation Committee, and we talk about this all the time, the Transportation Committee members and I, and we would love to see more dollars directed towards our infrastructure. One of the things that I'm working on is potentially a legislation that actually goes to a formula-based model when it comes to DOT funding, because when you go to Region 8, and you say, hey, we need all these issues addressed, they say, we would love to deal with it. I just need the money. And the reality is, the way that Albany works, as you know, it's picking winners and losers. There's really no rhyme or reason to why certain regions are getting X dollars and other regions are getting Y dollars. But if we actually went to a formula-based program, and you talk about the number of assets that each region has, we have the most assets, the most paved miles, and the most bridges in the entire state, right here in the Hudson Valley. But yet, if you look at the ratings, we have the worst rated roads. Why is that? It's because we're not getting the dollars, because they're being diverted elsewhere. And so one of the things that we're talking about right now is a formula-based approach, because it's going to drive more dollars to the Hudson Valley, to our region, so that Region 8 can finally have the funding they need to really tackle the projects that are needed. And I see it all the time, just like you, driving through these corridors. And I said this to them. In my district, across the entire 94th Assembly District, state roads are the main arteries. It's all state roads. And yet when you go to them and say, hey, we have problems, they're sitting there saying that they don't have the money to fix it. So it's there's a real disconnect there that needs to be addressed. And my hope is that a formula-based approach will actually drive more dollars there to allow them to do more. I do also want to say that if people see potholes on state roads, 1-800-POTHOLE, you can call up right there in your car, of course, as long as you're on hands-free. And you can report it right to DOT using that hotline. And at least it gets in the queue so they're made aware of it, and then they can go address it. And so that is something that they are pushing. So that's 1-800-POTHOLE to report a pothole on a state road. So.
Matt, thank you for coming, very informative. But with the revow, the Carmel went through a huge revow with
Yeah, I remember.
a lot of money, and we're staying at the 100%.
Yep.
So, as far as the governor, maybe she should do a little bit of research, like we have that already.
Yeah, right.
Right. You don't need
She
to
can write us a
impose
check
it.
back, though,
Yeah,
then.
I was going to say, she can give us some money back for it. But no, I really appreciate you coming and letting us know to keep all this stuff on our radar, and I appreciate all the hard work you're doing up there. Thank you.
I'm honored to do it. It's a true honor to be up there. So, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
As always, know that I'm here, my office is here. We've got great partners on every level of government. We really do. And I've been, as Frank said, Councilman Lombardi said, I've been involved in government for quite some time now. And I can't remember a time when we've had such synergy from the local level to the county level. We have Erin Lee Crowley with us tonight, but also with our county executive, Kevin Byrne, and also Mike Lawler, our congressman, who's been just a fantastic partner for us in so many ways. So please continue to give us your ideas, your suggestions, your concerns, and we'll continue to work collaboratively to try to address them the best we can. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Yeah, you got 5 minutes, go. So if anyone in the audience besides Matt Slater wants to get up, because he's not a resident,
Erin Crowley, Mahopac. I have a question for Assemblyman Slater. With the transit-oriented development, how does that work with bus stops? Because we do have several bus stops throughout. We don't have a lot of trains that direct, except for maybe Brewster. It doesn't affect Carmel. But how does that work with bus stops?
Yeah. So this isn't the first time we've seen transit-oriented development proposed on the state level. Last year, they proposed it and they included bus stops. And I know that because when I was then supervisor of Yorktown, I said, oh, I've got no train stations. And they said, oh, but you've got bus stops. And so we had to go through that process. This does not include bus stops. It's just following the Metro North train line and wherever those hubs are, those train stops. That's where they're trying to implement the transit-oriented development.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
thanks. Anything else?
Thank you.
Nope. All right, so if there are no one else in the audience that wants to make a comment, we'll move on to our voting meeting. The first resolution is awarding bids for miscellaneous Highway Department materials. Councilman Lombardi, could you read that for us?
Sure. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Carmel had previously authorized advertisements for the solicitation of bids for Highway Spring 2013 materials. And whereas Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni had recommended the award of bids as per the attached memorandum dated March 7, 2023, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby awards the bids for the foregoing material to the lowest responsible bidders who met specification as attached hereto and made part hereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by McDonough. Can we have a
Councilman
roll call?
Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi? Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, Resolution 1 passed. Our second resolution is authorizing fund balance modifications, Office of the Town Comptroller. Whereas the Town Comptroller has reviewed the draft year-end fund balance analysis for years 2015 through 2022 with the Town Board, which are detailed and explained on the attached schedule. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the increase and decreases of reserves for the Compensated Absences Fund and Capital Purposes Fund in the General Highway Fund for the years 2015 through 2022, as shown on itemized on the schedule, is attached hereto, incorporated herein, and made a part thereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Lombardi. Roll call.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, Resolution 2 passed. Our third resolution, accepting proposal for insurance. Councilwoman McDonough, could you?
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby accepts the proposal of Brown and Brown of New York, Inc., Mahopac, New York, to provide liability insurance to the Town of Carmel for the period of April 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024, in form as is on file in the Office of the Town Supervisor. And be it further resolved, the Town Supervisor, Michael Kazari, is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documentation required to accept such proposal. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Baranowski. Roll call.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, Resolution 3 passed. Our fourth resolution, authorizing payment to East of Hudson Watershed Corporation. Councilman Baranowski, could you read that?
Yes. Resolved that upon the recommendation and determination of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes payment of the sum of $21,985.02 to the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation, EOHWC, for 2022 operation and maintenance of stormwater retrofit projects in accordance with the Town of Carmel's overall phosphorus reduction requirements, as well as in accordance with the operations and maintenance policy for EOHWC previously adopted by the Carmel Town Board, and the invoice from EOHWC dated March 13th, 2023. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call, please.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, Resolution 4 passed. Our fifth resolution is amended resolution extending radio equipment rental agreement, Town of Carmel Highway Department. Councilman Lombardi, could you?
And whereas on February 8, 2018, the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni, authorized entry into a rental agreement for radio equipment for Town of Carmel Highway Department vehicles and facilities for a term not to exceed 5 years at a monthly cost of $2,160 with Goosetown Communication, Congress, New York. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni, hereby authorizes extension of the existing agreement for a period of 5 years, commencing immediately in accordance with the proposal dated March 1, 2023. And be it further resolved, the Town Board waives the application of its adoption of procurement policy in connection with this authorization. And be it further resolved, Town Controller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. And we have a roll call, please.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, Resolution 5 passed. Our sixth resolution is authorizing request for proposals for the upgrade and maintenance of the internet technology systems and equipment, Town of Carmel Town Hall, Police Department, Recreation, and Highway Departments. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes Chief of Staff Ann Pasquarello to request for proposals for the upgrade and maintenance of internet technology systems and its equipment for Carmel Town Hall Departments, Police Department, Recreation, and Parks Department, and Highway Department. I offer this resolution as read,
Second?
seconded by Councilman McDonough. We can just do a regular vote, right?
Yep, all in favor.
Okay. Is all those in favor? Aye. So 6 passed. Okay, number 7 is resolution authorizing settlement of litigation. Councilman McDonough, could you read that one?
Sure, whereas there is currently pending in the Supreme Court, County of Putnam, State of New York, under index numbers 500905/2018, 501253/2019, and 500998/2020, certain lawsuits entitled Lake Mahopac Condo and Lake Mahopac Units Rental Corp. Versus the Town of Carmel, regarding the tax assessment for the property known and designated Town of Carmel tax maps number 76.30-1.15.101 through 76.30-1-15.146, 76.30-1-8, and 76.30-1-16. And whereas a proposed settlement of the litigation has been negotiated by Glenn Drosy, Town Assessor, and Certiorari Counsel Costello and Fulchetti LLP, both of whom have recommended approval of the proposed settlement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the settlement of the aforementioned litigation as recommended. And be it further resolved that Certiorari Counsel Costello and Fulchetti LLP hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the Town of Carmel the stipulation of settlement and corresponding consent judgment reflecting the terms of this settlement. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by both Bernowski and Lombardi. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, number 7 passed. The 8th resolution is authorizing advertisement for bids. Councilman Baranowski, please.
Resolved that Michael J. Simone, Town of Carmel Superintendent of Highways, is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for the Birch Road Culvert Rehabilitation Project. And be it further resolved that upon finalization and completion of bid specifications, the Superintendent of Highways is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to Town Clerk Ann Spofford, which are to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by both Lombardi and McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, number 8 passed. Number 9 is authorizing scheduling of a public hearing. Councilman Lombardi?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners of Town of Carmel Water District Number 2, hereby authorizes the scheduling of a public hearing at Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, 10541, on Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023, at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter that evening as possible, pursuant to New York Eminent Domain Procedure Law, Article 2, Section 202. And be it further resolved that the purpose of said public hearing shall be the discussion and consideration of the acquisition by Carmel Water District Number 2, pursuant to New York Eminent Domain Procedure Law, the real property improvement located at 1760 Route 6 in the Town of Carmel, also known and designated as Town of Carmel Tax Map Number 56.6, Block 1, Lot 31, for the design, placement, and construction of new water treatment plant facility for Carmel Water District Number 2, and whether such proposed acquisition is in furtherance of the public purpose of providing and construction a new water treatment plant for Carmel Water District Number 2 and the residents and users located within such district. And be it further resolved, the town clerk, Ann Spofford, is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official daily newspaper of the Town of Carmel and on the town bulletin board regarding this public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Second by Councilman McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 9 passed. Our 10th resolution is amending our 2023 user fee schedule. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby amends, effective immediately, the Town of Carmel user fee schedule for fiscal year 2023 in form as hereto attached and made a part thereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Baranowski. Can we have a roll call?
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
What?
You're fine with the second, I was speaking about the next resolution.
Oh, good.
Sorry. Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, number 10 passed. Resolution number 11 is
Long one.
a long one. But it's important.
Source of my chocolate.
Declaring a water emergency pursuant to Section 151-22 of the Town Code, Carmel Water Districts 1, 8, 10, and 13. Councilwoman McDonough?
Sure. Whereas that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel has been advised by Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., that a water emergency exists within the aforesaid water districts number 1, 8, 10, and 13. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Section 151-22-A of the Town Code of the Town of Carmel, the Town Board acting as Commissioners of Carmel Water Districts 1, 8, 10, and 13 hereby declares a water emergency with respect to and within Carmel Waters District 1, 8, 10, and 13. And be further resolved that pursuant to Town Code Section 155-22B, during the period of said emergency as declared herein, the use of water for any of the following non-essential purposes as enumerated in Section 155-22C shall be prohibited: the washing of motor vehicles except for windshields, mirrors, and the like, the cleaning or washing of the outside of buildings or other structures by the use of water or steam, the bleeding of supply lines for the purpose of maintaining a constant flow to prevent freezing, the flooding of outdoor skating rinks, the operation of swimming pools, portable and otherwise, except swimming pools designed and used exclusively for medical treatment, the use of automatic plumbing flush fixtures or apparatus, and the maintenance of constant flow from showers and similar apparatus, the use of hose, spout, and similar pressure bathing apparatus, and the maintenance of constant flow from showers and similar apparatus, the new installation of refrigeration and/or air conditioning equipment requiring the use of water, and the watering of lawns and private gardens, and the operation of ornamental ponds, pools, and fountains. Be further resolved that the town clerk is directed to publish this resolution in the official newspaper of the town and to post said resolution on the official bulletin board of the town. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilman Baranowski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just before, on the motion, I know that we have the town engineer here, and,
I know, but we can vote on it and then have.
no, it's gotta be, otherwise, how can we vote on it?
Why, what's the
What if
matter?
somebody wants to vote no? You'd have to ask.
Oh,
Why, is
okay,
there
Rich, come up
something
then,
wrong with
please.
it?
So this is because we're doing water work.
Hello, Rich.
Nice chair over here tonight.
So
Don't get used to it.
I won't.
So Councilman Lombardi would like you to explain about why we have to restrict the water, please.
Well, usually, let me just preface it by, usually, these things happen
Because of a drought.
because of a drought situation, and we're only in beginning of April. I don't, unless I'm reading, the lake wrong and everything wrong, that doesn't seem that we're in that kind of situation.
It's
So I just
part of
want
the
to.
water tank
Well, that's,
You're
replacement.
absolutely
That's why
correct.
I wanted
The
to-
water levels are fine.
Correct. So before we vote on this, or at least before I vote on it, just want the public to be aware of why we're doing this right now, and for how long do you think this
Sure.
issue would?
No problem. Your assessment is correct. The lake is fine. The water treatment plant can produce the water. We're not in a drought condition. What's going to happen is, we have two water tanks in this district. It serves Carmel Water District 1, which is the business district, 8, which is, I forget what it's called now, the Ridge, 10, which is Lakeview, Lake something, and then 13, which is Rolling Greens. I apologize for not knowing the names off the top of my head. So those two tanks service the districts. We went into a contract about a year and a half ago. We've installed new tanks. We installed a new one in Water District 2, and we installed a new one in Water District 14, which is online and will be officially online right after NYSEG has finished their electrical work. We have rehabbed the one in Water District 3, and now we are rehabbing the two here in Water Districts 1, 8, 10, and 13. In order to rehab it, you have to drain the tank. What's going to happen after they drain the tank, they're going to go in, they're going to vacuum clean it, they're going to put in a mixer inside, they're going to re-epoxy the inside, so it'll stop some of those leaks that have been happening over years, that happen occasionally. That all needs to be done. We're going to bring it up to code, AWWA standards. The tank needs to be drained for that to happen. While that's happening, we cannot have extraneous water use, right? So we're putting, at the top right now of Kings Ridge, a pneumatic tank. What that pneumatic tank will function as a pressure. All it is providing pressure, not volume. So when we empty that tank, we're emptying out 300,000 gallons of volume that would be in the system. We'll be able to maintain everybody's water pressure. We'll be able to maintain water to people. However, if we're starting to fill pools and use irrigation and, if we have a water main break we're not going to be able to solve, right? We're going to have to deal with that. But all the other extra uses, we're asking that for the time being, that residents don't use water for any other purpose. It is going to go on to the end of June at the latest, but it should be sooner than that. Okay,
Wow.
it should be a 4-week window now. Then we're going to fill that tank back up. It was 4 weeks starting Monday, so, because they haven't drained the tank yet. 4 weeks from there, then they're going to fill the tank back up, come down over here to Crest, which is right up the block, do the same exact thing. We're setting up a pneumatic tank at Lakeview School. We've gone into an agreement with the Mahopac Central School District. Same thing will happen. We'll have a pneumatic tank there. We'll be draining the tank, which is why we need to have these water restrictions for that duration. We went a little longer we went 2 months or whatever that is. It's a little more than 2 months. Hopefully it's done quicker. Just so you know, as the board, we haven't put out the project yet, but that's another contract that's going to go out. For Water District 2, there are 2 additional tanks that need to be, looked at. One of them is going to be completely, rehab. That's the one up near ShopRite. And based on the information we're getting from the engineers now that are working on it, which is Wesson and Sampson, we're going to recommend replacing the Lindy tank because of structural but structural eccentricities, if you want to call it, with that tank. So, but that hasn't gone out. I have permission to go out to bid with that. When we have the final plans, we're going to come back out, but we might have to go back out for funding. So we're going to do all that, make sure we have everything lined up, and then we'll be back to the board, and we'll probably go through this exercise again next year in Water District 2, asking for the water emergency, requesting it for about a 2-month period so that this work can get done in Water District 2. We're not there now. We're right here, 1, 8, 10, and 13. So.
Thanks, Rich, I appreciate the explanation, because when
Yeah,
somebody
I
hears-
actually thought it was for a drought.
Well, most people would probably
'Cause I see
assume
everything
that,
dying off, yeah.
We've always done it for a drought reason, and everybody's like, wait, what drought is there? There's no
Right.
drought.
Ye-
We're in the beginning of April.
I agree.
And the restrictions here, for the pools and stuff, that probably wouldn't matter to people until, we got closer to the summer. So if you're saying it's a 4-week
No, you're
window
saying
of the
through
work.
June.
Right, yeah, I'm saying end of June.
End
4
of
weeks
June,
for
right,
one
to the end of
tank,
June.
4 weeks for the next, 8,
Right.
that's.
Okay.
yeah.
People open up their pools in May.
Right, well.
Yeah, so I have a question. When we bid this out and when we talked about it and awarded it, was this brought up that there was going to be an emergency, that people had to do this?
I don't know if we
'Cause I don't
distinctly talked
remember-
about it, but the engineers who were designing it and the water operators in my office, we knew that we were going to have to do this. It's a precautionary, we're doing it for precautions, right? We don't want to use any extra water. If there's any catastrophic failure, we can't have that happening. We're out 300,000 gallons of storage.
No, I
Right,
get
so-
that, but I think for the next time that we do that, this should be brought to our attention, because maybe you can put something in the next contract so that residents don't have to be inconvenienced until June, when they're going to be wanting to fill up their pools, in May. that, or watering their new lawns that they just put in.
Right.
Down, they're not gonna be able to do that, that maybe the supplier or the person that we contract out has to supply extra water. So it's not an emergency, so we don't have to put these limitations on the residents.
Right, again,
I mean, it's a I'm just
I
saying.
hear what you're saying, but this
just to
is,
put it out.
the abundance of caution. We're gonna err on the caution side versus not doing this, right? So I hear what you're saying.
No, I get it,
There's
but
no-
I'm saying
but
for
there's
the
no good
future.
time-
I'm
but there's
saying
no-
for the future.
Right, but there's no good time to do, this is the time of year this work gets done. You can't do it in the winter because everything freezes, right? So you can't have an empty tank, you can't have a pneumatic tank. It has to be done this time of year, which is what we did in Water District 3. And I don't remember if we did emergency problems with
Yeah,
that, but
I don't think we
this is
did.
this is a different water system. There's a lot more users to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason. Our operators, Joe Scollin and Ted Kugler, they're very worried about having the system in place. We're doing this out of an abundance of caution.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really driven by our operators. The engineers have recommended it. I've already spoke to Highway about using extra water. I've already spoken to the fire department, Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department, so they know, again, if there's a fire, God forbid, right?
Right.
And they start pulling off a hydrant, which they will, and they should normally, we're saying, hey, you may not, don't do it, because we won't be able to provide you that water for a sustained period of time, because we don't have that extra storage. So we're doing this out of that caution, because now if there's a fire, yeah, maybe they can pull a little bit, but if somebody's already filling their pool and somebody's watering their lawn that same night, his house will burn down because somebody has a green lawn. So I make light of it, and I don't mean to make light of it that way. I mean, I'm being flippant about it. I don't mean to be. But I mean, that's the logic behind it. So yes, we could probably have done it earlier, but this is the time of year. You're getting out of the freeze period. You want to get it done. You want to get it done before the fall, which is really the dry time of year. August, September is when we get the dry time, and then you start getting rainy weather again in October, but then you're hitting the frost area again. So this is when the work normally would get done for this type of system.
No, what I meant, Rich, is that, is it possible, not for this, not for this one that we're voting on tonight.
Right.
But you were saying that we're going to probably be doing this for someone else that you just mentioned, another district.
Water District 2, yeah.
Right, so is it possible, instead of having to do another emergency for them later on, and I don't know, because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
an engineer, can they bring water in so they wouldn't have to do this, or no?
No,
It's
because-
just the amount that's.
No,
Those
okay.
trucks aren't big enough.
Right, so
50
if you've seen one of the Durkin trucks around,
Yeah.
that's 6,000 gallons of water.
Okay.
So if you want to have 300,000 gallons,
It's a lot
So,
of
so
trucks.
it's,
Yeah,
okay,
it's-
so you answered my question,
Yeah,
got it.
so it's not like we could put a 300,000 gallon tank
Right,
back up next to the other tank.
Yep.
For when we replaced the Everett Road tank,
yep,
we had the Everett Road tank over in Water 2 in
Right.
place.
Yes, I
And we
remember
put the
that.
second one, which is online, so they're both online right now.
Right.
So maybe with Water District 2, we have an extra 500,000, or extra 300,000 gallons of storage,
Mm-hmm.
because we have two tanks at Everett. We'd be able to work that a little better, so we may not have to do it in Water District 2. In this case, we have two tanks.
right,
That's the problem.
yep, okay, got it, thank you.
They also have a lot more users at 2,100 and something in Water 2 versus
Correct.
160 or whatever it is at
The-
3.
Yeah, Water 3 is a small, so again, Water 3 is a little different. Again, we can go into the nuts and bolts of this, but I'll be brief, which I'm normally not, so I apologize. Water 3, normally the system operates where the pumps are pumping and feeding people directly. So you're not being fed from the tank, you're not filling the tank and then distributing the water. Only part of the district gets that way. So a pneumatic tank system works more efficiently with that type of system. In this case, we're pumping up, and the water pressure, the static head on that tank, distributes it to the further reaches of the system. So that's why we need to be a little more careful. That's why we have to
Yeah.
have this particular,
Emergency, yep.
action made by the board.
Okay, perfect, thank
Thanks
you.
for the
Thank you.
explanation.
For the explanation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gotta vote on it.
Yes. So if everybody is satisfied, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So water restriction for 1, 3, 8, 10, 13. No, not 3, 1, 8, 10, 13. Okay, resolution number 12 is authorizing Deputy Highway Superintendent to proceed with the purchase of a dump truck. Councilman Baranowski, could you?
Sure. Resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby authorizes town of Carmel Deputy Highway Superintendent Michael Martin to proceed to purchase one 2015 International 7600 dump truck from Town of Stafford Highway Department, New York, at an aggregate unit cost not to exceed $19,999 from Auctions International item number 32279. Be it further resolved that Town of Carmel Deputy Highway Superintendent Michael Martin is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documents to purchase said vehicle. And be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget revisions to effect the aforesaid purchase transactions authorized therein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by McDonough. Can we have a roll call?
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, number 12 passed. So we're going to be going into executive session. We have our attorney, Greg Fulchetti, to discuss litigation, and we're going to have Richard Franzetti, PE Town Engineer, to discuss personnel. And then we will be adjourning from there. Before we make that motion to go to exec, our Congressman Mike Lawler, 17th District, he's going to be having a mobile office here at Town Hall on Thursday, April 13th, from 11 to 2 here at the Carmel Town Hall. So if anyone wants to have time to speak to the congressman or his representatives, Thursday, the 13th of April, he will be here at Town Hall from 11 to 2. Before I forget, one of our maintenance workers at Recreation, 27-year-plus veteran Frank Favia, he is retiring. I just want to wish him the best. Thank you for your hard work, Frank. We are having Shredded Day on Saturday, the 15th of April. That's going to be from 9 to 2 p.m., 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. over at the Michael Geary Memorial Rink parking lot, Route 6, across from the Volunteer Fire Department, Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. Residents are requested to bring proof of residency and only three file boxes per car, please. We are doing the townwide cleanup and compliance. That is April 17th through the 21st. We already had a couple of young men out doing the cleanup, and I know that we have the Lions that Councilman Lombardi has set up, and we have some Girl Scouts coming to do some cleanups. We have the bags, we have the pickers, we have vests. If it's young people, we will provide extra security to protect them and keep them off the road. So please, everybody, we need everybody to help clean up the town and pick up the litter that's along the sides of the street. The Highway Department and the Town Hall, the Supervisor's Office, both have the pickers and the bags. The Highway Department is 845-628-7474, and the Supervisor's Office is 845-628-1500, extension 139 if you want to call, and we will set you up with pickers and bags. So, anybody else have comments before we go to exec?
No, just wanted to wish everyone a very happy and blessed Passover and Easter, and enjoy. Looks like the weekend's supposed to be nice weather, so enjoy with your family and friends. Oh,
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that.
Well, you missed your opportunity.
All right, good, tell them.
And Town Hall is closed on this Friday for Good Friday. Well, Ann told me.
to say that.
Well, she told me. Thank you, Ann, it's
I was
fine.
saving that
You
for when
did
we
the
say
right- You
goodnight.
did the right thing. You gotta put it on your...
It's right here on top.
The electronic recycling?
On May 13th? Yeah. If you want to.
You just did.
Oh,
I think you just did.
yeah. Oh, and so we're doing the e-waste on May 13th 9 to what, 2? 9 to noon, 9 a.m. to 12 noon, and that's going to be right across from the town hall at the corner of Mud Pond and Croton Falls Road. So before we go, I'll say that we're going to be closed on Good Friday, again.
Okay, you can, just make sure you put it down that I said it first.
Can I
said it first.
Can I get a motion to
So
go to executive
second.
session? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, see you on the 15th. No, not on the 15th.